And so you're going to want to make sure and itemize each one of those and then supply resources pursuant to where the funnel started and where that funnel's going.
Welcome back to another installment of the Next Gen Case Study Series. On today's episode, I have with me John Staub, who is the Director of Growth Marketing at Remodel Health, a company dedicated to transforming employee benefits with innovative, technology-driven health solutions. With almost a decade at Remodel Health, John has helped shape and grow the company's brand and customer base, moving up from a benefits advisor to leading the growth marketing team. John is also known for his thought leadership, having contributed to industry publications and spoken at conferences on the future of employee health benefits, which is why we're excited to have him on the show. John, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much, Devin. I'm so grateful to be here. I'm a learner who helps others learn. I love podcasts and so grateful to be here on your podcast, Devin. So thanks for having me.
Yeah, the feeling's mutual. I'm excited to get into some of the stuff that you're doing here. But before we get too far ahead of ourselves, for the sake of the guests, let's just start with a couple of minutes on who you are, where you came from, and how you landed your role as Director of Marketing at Remodel Health.
Yeah, obviously everyone's got a long story and a short story. So I'm going to do my best to distill this down into what's most interesting and who I am. So first and foremost, I'm just going to say it. I am a nerd. I love numbers and calculations and solving problems so much. I also love optimizing things. So I'm going to take you back to my actual first job ever at a pizza place called Little Caesars. And so I don't know if any of you have ever eaten Little Caesars. There's a lot of people that have different opinions on that, but I remember becoming the fastest dough maker at Little Caesars. And it was simply because I looked at the process that they were giving me and I just kind of gamified it. I figured out a better way to do it. Well, I didn't know that that sort of a skill set was going to end up becoming kind of a career for me of figuring out better ways to optimize, communicating things and installing technologies. It's just incredible when I think making pizza. Now I'm in health insurance technology. Fast forward a bit, I spent a bulk of my career, actually, almost about a decade, working in nonprofits with events and communication. And so I really gained a lot of knowledge on two big things. First, just simply talking to people so they listen. It's really saturated market to try to get people to be part of a nonprofit, whether it's giving money, whether it is volunteering their time, which is arguably even more difficult than money, and then all around a mission. And so gathering my experience in communicating and pointing toward the mission, I actually studied business. And so as I mentioned, love numbers and solutions. So somehow I found myself, around 2017, getting recruited by our CEO here at Remodel Health. He said, "Hey, there's just a few people here. We think that you've got a skill set that can help us to continue to grow. Do you want to jump on board this crazy idea?" And I said yes. And so I've been here ever since, and really excited to share some of the things I've learned along the way.
Going as you're going through this story, there's a couple of things that really kind of jumped out at me. The first thing is this kind of obsession with finding processes and defining them and then optimizing them, making them more efficient. And I'm sure that as a natural curiosity has fueled a lot of the motivation behind the decisions that you've made, but also made what you do easier compared to other people who maybe struggle with some of this stuff. And this I would package up as one of those transferable skills. Some weird thing that you picked up along the line where you're like, hey, this is actually an interesting thing for me that I like to do. How can I take this and now be useful to other people, an organization or whatever, to like really help them optimize their own things? What other transferable skills have you picked up along the way that kind of help shape the work that you're up to now?
Yeah, I think that just simply following up in a timely manner with whoever you're dealing with. I know that that seems so simplistic, but at the end of the day, business is relationships. Growing a business is about growing relationships, even interpersonally. Our interpersonal lives will impact our business if we're kind of out of balance. And so making sure and staying connected with people, it's hard to not be obsessive on our phones, but then disconnected from our phones. And I would simply say that along the way, I have found that just staying connected and staying connected on purpose is very, very helpful. And it started with just some of my friends. I was the guy that would help stay connected and ask how things were going. And I use that skill in business to make sure and check in with my manager to say, hey, is there anything else that you need me to do before I take off? And those sorts of things end up setting you up with more opportunities. And those new opportunities then obviously increase your experience, increase the authority you're given to do more projects. And yeah, I would simply just say, hey, make sure you're following up, use tools because we're not all natural at it. But I mean, man, we don't have an excuse anymore to not use the tools we have in front of us.
Yeah, that idea of being in communication is a tough one for a lot of people because it looks very different to many, many people. Some people prefer to stay in constant contact, where others prefer to have minimal contact. And I'll use Elon Musk as a perfect example on this. I heard him talking in a recent interview about how if he's in a meeting with a group of people and there is a person there who is not contributing or isn't getting value from the conversations that are happening, it's not only polite, it's almost expected that they just get up and walk away, excuse themselves quietly to go do something that is more productive or is more um, useful to whatever the goal is of the team. So where's the balance in this when we try to navigate that kind of the etiquette, or like that social unspoken etiquette, all those unspoken rules versus like, hey, actually we need to collaborate here and we do need to work a little bit more consistently on our efforts. So how do you approach balancing those two things for your communication efforts?
Yeah, I would divide it into two sections. I would say there is your method of
Mhm.
how you're going to be communicating, but then also your motive. And so let's start with motive first, because I think that's really, really important. Your motive has to be to genuinely enhance the person that you are reaching out to. Let's say it's a friend, and it can't just be about you. Anytime that something is about you when you're communicating, it's going to be immediately understood. Maybe not specifically understood by the person you're reaching out to, but they're going to know something inside is wired for them to know, hey, that person's only reaching out for themselves. And that just doesn't help. And so when we're talking about prospects in the sales funnel, for example, and you genuinely have a solution that genuinely can work for them in general, but maybe not right now, maybe not them in the season that they're in. And so the motive behind your communication has to be, hey, if this is helpful, I'm just doing my job. I'm being faithful to the process. But then there is also method. I know for a fact there are some people that will not respond to a text message that I send to them, but there are other people who do not want me to call them. If I call, somebody better be going through a very difficult time. And indeed on my own, device, if I see someone call me, I almost get like some sort of, an anxiety attack. I'm like, wait, why are they calling? What's going to happen?
This
And so
must be an
yeah,
emergency.
it's got to be an emergency.
Yeah.
So check your method. But ultimately, I believe that your motive is going to cover over a multitude of sins when it comes to what mistakes you may be making in your method.
That really speaks to the evolution of the way that we have done business, and I'm kind of aiming at this the big change that went from task-oriented management, where, hey, this is the task, go complete that task, and then come back to me for more tasks. And although that was one way of doing things, it didn't prove to be as efficient as it could be, versus what I think you are kind of alluding to is a goal-oriented management style, where it's more about getting people enrolled in the vision, in the mission, in the big idea that we're all trying to get to as a destination, or even in Simon Sinek's words, the infinite game of how long can we keep this game going versus, reaching a destination. So to have everybody enrolled in that idea and working together and communicating and clearly collaborating on that outcome is obviously the most efficient way to get there. So how do you approach taking some of these higher level ideas and putting them into practice when it comes to intentionally crafting your customer's journey from that point of discovery when they find you and they're trying to figure out whether or not you're going to be able to help them solve their problem, to all the way to the other side where, hey, we're working together, collaborating on solving that problem, and we've achieved that outcome, and we'll continue to work together. So what does that kind of experience look like for you guys?
Yeah, I think it's okay to have subsets of both the problem and the person. And so let's talk about the problem first. Each customer or prospect, even at the very beginning of the sales funnel, they're going to have a unique problem. So I'm in health insurance, particularly employers that want to provide health insurance to their employees. So we have a couple different stakeholders here. Indeed, we have the employer who then has all of the employees, who then those employees oftentimes have families. There are also brokers that are involved in between the employer and us as a vendor. So there's a lot of different problems along the way. And then even in each of those big buckets, there's sub problems. So, for example, someone who's a Gen Z employee is going to have a very different problem to solve than someone who's 55 and maybe has pre-existing conditions and they need to have a particular plan that can cover it.
Hmm.
So, first, you need to identify the big buckets that you're dealing with, and then the generalized problems that each of them may have. At that point, I think it's also very appropriate to have some wireframes on, generally speaking, how people similar to them have dealt with it in the past. And people don't necessarily want to be, pushed down a singular path, but they do like guidance. I think that algorithmic shopping has proved that it's helpful to us. And so when it comes to the problem, first identify what that is, and then what are these, actual solutions that have been proven in the past, and what are the general ideas. So, I'm kind of talking about building out a little bit of an LLM here when you're saying, hey, if this, then this, sort of a model. But I'm very systematic in my approach to both people and problems. And, I think I answered your question correctly. I might have missed half of it. So please correct me if I've missed anything, Devin.
No, this is perfect actually. So I want to go a little bit deeper on that. So the idea here is okay, first of all, before we even decide that we can help this person, we got to identify the problem that they're having. So when it comes to identifying the problem, where in the relationship does that start? Does it start with content that you guys are creating based on your own experiences from past client work that you've done, and that is what or where or how your future prospects discover you? Or does it come from, hey, they called us and asked us a bunch of questions, and now we're in that discovery process? Where in that does this actually happen?
Yeah, that's great. So the inception point of the relationship is crucial to not only create new funnels that allow those relationships to begin, but then also identifying once they're in this funnel, what are ways to help them along their unique journey that ultimately does funnel into a similar journey down the way. To like all these little tributaries that eventually form into the big river of your pipeline. And so let's say it is somebody that is an employee that has a question on a particular resource about their health insurance. In the United States, health insurance is super complicated. Only around 3 to 4% of people actually understand some really basic terms. So there's a lot of articles online that employees and their families are looking up information on their insurance. Well, if you're able to provide at the employee level something that's resourceful, that employee indeed may take it back to their employer and say, hey, I found this resource on this website from this vendor. Have you ever heard of them? This could be helpful for us. And then obviously then the employer will then go look at employer-based questions around the exact same thing that are completely irrelevant to the employee. And so you want to make sure that you are giving accessible resources in multiple forms. Obviously, online articles are helpful. It's quite saturated. It's very hard to penetrate that market. And so there's other ways such as, courses, webinars, social media content, just making sure that you're walking alongside partners that also are saying a similar, solution-based method, but not necessarily in your lane. So it's multifaceted to get people into the funnel. But that said, once the employer is there, once the employee is there, the broker who is helping be the guide to the employer, each of them is going to have questions and concerns relating themselves and then relating the people that they are in charge of. And so you're going to want to make sure and itemize each one of those and then supply resources pursuant to where the funnel started and where that funnel's going.
So along the way, there's many opportunities to have conversations or create touch points. Um, there is this new wave of technology that has kind of entered this ecosystem. We're calling it AI, but I don't know if we're there yet to actually genuinely call it AI, but enough that it's very good. It's good at disguising itself. It's good at acting like us. And we're seeing it now being deployed across many different verticals for many different purposes. So when it comes to the marketing function or to the customer service function, where do you see it appropriate now to exchange the human interactions with this AI situation? Is it ever appropriate versus, keeping everything human? I'm especially curious, John, because you kind of specialize more in the efficiencies and processes and methodologies. So, from your perspective, where do you think all of this new technology fits into the process?
My perspective on AI is a bit unique in as much as I want and I see AI helping us to actually be more human and not
Hmm.
less. And what I mean by that is we are often busied by tasks that can be automated that are taking away our opportunity for human connection.
Hmm.
And what I'm most excited about is that AI can get us further faster to the moments where we indeed then need human interaction. And then it also removes the busy work when human interaction is actually not needed. And so I oftentimes see a reverse problem where we spend too much human time where it is not needed to be human time. And then we are resourcing these AI bots to replace the actual human connection that we so desperately need. And so, my goal with any sort of leverage of AI is that we, again, go further faster and we get to those moments on, hey, do we need a human? And if we do, now that human has the capacity and the margin to make that connection and to do things that I still believe only humans will ever be able to do, at least in our lifetime. And so I'm very grateful for those enhancements and optimizations. I mean, there's so many different things that are just simple, like, efficiencies on, hey, take this really long format and turn it into 5 paragraphs. Well, now I don't have to waste a bunch of time. I can go a lot faster to get, 10 paragraphs down into 2 paragraphs. But then I need to say, hey, this isn't carrying the human emotion that I needed. So I'm going to tweak a couple different things in my response. So hopefully that's an all around application on AI, particularly when it comes to health insurance decision making.
Hmm.
There are a lot of technical details that when you are dealing with numbers and math and networks and deductible percentages and all of this, that's really difficult to do as a human. And so it's very helpful to have a very super powered calculator that helps me go further faster to then, as a human, saying, now what matters to you?
Hmm.
We've done all these calculations and all these numbers. Now, here are the three best solutions based on what you've kind of said. Are we hitting the mark or do we need to go back to the calculator again?
Ah, got it. So, in when it comes to your actual practical implementation of some of these tools with Remodel Health, are you guys playing it safe and sitting on the sidelines and kind of watching how other people are implementing things, or have you kind of jumped in the deep end and started toying with some of
Yeah, when it comes to health insurance, everything's safe. There's a lot of
it? Fair.
risk involved. And so, yeah, we're 100% safe. But I'm telling you what, you don't grow as fast as Remodel Health is without being at the forefront of being the
Hmm.
first ones to apply new technologies and saying, hey, we are going to use resources inside of our organization to do things that no one else has done and to solve problems that no one else has solved, to discover problems that no one even realized were there yet. And so, yeah, when it comes to quote unquote playing it safe, no, you'll never grow fast if you're just waiting on the sidelines. You've got to be right there on the front lines, doing the work, exploring things, taking chances, learning from the path around the mountain that may not have made it. And you go back to square one and say, well, we've now ruled out that side. Let's now chart a new path together.
The one thing that I can't gloss over here is that you mentioned we're going to discover new problems. And I love that that is a part of it. It reminds me of one of my own personal mantras is fail fast, fail frequent, and fail forward. And it has just been the way that I've always operated is I only have a certain level of skill and knowledge, and the only way I'm going to figure out what I'm missing or where the gaps are is if I dive headfirst into something and get there. And then as soon as I arrive at that, whatever that is, that roadblock, the hurdle, the challenge, now I'm armed with information to be able to go figure out how to overcome that thing. And so to your point, you're gonna solve all these challenges, you're going to create solutions, and then from that you're going to discover new problems and just getting people in that mentality of, hey, that's a part of it, that's the point, and don't shy away from it because that is an inevitability. In fact, what we should be doing collectively if we do want to evolve is to lean into it heavily, and in doing so we create new opportunities, and we continue to grow, and people continue to find meaning and purpose in the work that they're doing. On that note, John, we're kind of coming to a close with our time together here. I wonder if we can look forward a little bit. What are some of the big goals? What's coming down the pipeline? What are you guys aiming at? What are you excited about?
Yeah, with health insurance here in the United States specifically, it's not only complex and always changing, but it's really growing in a lot of new methods that employers and employees are able to participate in health insurance. Our need for healthcare isn't going away at all. We all need to go to the doctor. We're all going to need things more later in our life than we do now. And with this ever changing environment, leveraging technology for all of the new solutions that are out there and empowering employers with more choices, and then empowering employers to give their employees more choices in this whole changing market is really, really exciting. And so, particularly in health insurance, it's at a moment that is very similar to the 1980s when retirement benefits changed from pensions into 401ks. We now see huge players in the 401k market, specifically in technology solutions, and it's helping employees be empowered and it's helping employers to give attractive benefits. So I'm excited to see the way this continues to grow in the United States, particularly around technology and AI, helping us all to continue to do what we've been doing in spreadsheets, but then do it more efficiently, to do it more personally,
Mhm.
and to ultimately help more people along the way to get what they really need. And that's the care that they need, the support that they need, the benefits from the employer. And then even if we're pulling back, just being able to work at a job and get what you really need out of it helps us to, be better workers in the American workforce for sure.
Yeah, that's really exciting. Is that the optimistic perspective at the opportunity to continue to develop and grow and optimize, I think is a very exciting prospect. John, you've been very generous with your time and your wisdom here, and for that I'm grateful. I'm going to give you the last word here, and I'm going to ask you this. Let's imagine that there's somebody who's out there who's up to it, trying to create something for themselves, exploring some of these things to grow their own company or the company that they're a part of it, the team. Um, what sort of advice might you offer them to help them keep pushing and continue towards something brighter for themselves and their company?
Yeah, I'm gonna give them two things. The first thing is just don't stop. If you stop, you lose every time. And then the second thing is consider failure as a win, because what you've done is you know how to not do it again the next time. And so as long as we learn from those failures and we just don't stop, we will continue to find the right way over the mountain. And it's going to be successful every time. Again, as long as we don't quit and we make sure and consider all those failures a win.
Yeah, incredible advice. If somebody wanted to reach out to you to pick your brain or work with you, what's the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, you can email it hello@remodelhealth.com. That's going to be distributed to my whole team. So if you're interested in what Remodel Health does, you can email that. It'll get to them. If you say, "Hey John, I heard your podcast and I really need to talk to you," you will get to my inbox. So hello@remodelhealth.com. Very, very happy to connect with any of you that are interested in learning more.
Wonderful. We'll make sure to link to that in the show notes so anybody watching or listening will be able to find you easily. On that note, if you wanted to reach out to me and my team for any of our marketing or AI needs, you can visit nextgengrowth.com. Otherwise, that's it for this episode. Thanks for joining us for this incredible conversation, and I will see you in the next.